Hello, good people. Welcome to Raw Vegan Rising. My name is Shane Sterling. How are you doing today? This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to share with you a video clip from a live stream into my group coaching program called Raw Vegan Heroes. A member was asking me to elaborate on what I mean by grieving the loss of what could have been. And I say this all the time to my private clients and my members because I believe it's essential for us to break through, for us to understand how we can truly stay raw vegan. This is how we wake up out of the matrix. We have to shed the illusions that we've been upholding our whole life. Family traditions, cultural traditions, and this is painful. We have to grieve the loss of these illusions. So this was me elaborating on that for a member, and I wanted to share it with you because I think it's important for anyone wanting to be raw vegan to understand this concept. So please take a look at this clip. Thanks for watching. We're born, we work for a system that enslaves us, and we pay taxes and we die. And that we're born, we have to eat animal products our whole life to be healthy, and then we die at 80 years old with arthritis and degenerative conditions, and we're hobbling around and we lose our quality of life. Okay, these are the official narratives. The official narratives have been instilled in our culture for, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years, possibly. Comes down our family lineage. Grieving the loss, mourning the loss of what could have been is mourning the loss of our family lineage, mourning the loss of our traditions, our culture. What could have been is that it could have been normal. I could have been born into a society that actually was right, was righteous, was on the right path. And instead, I'm born into a society that harms me, harms others, enslaves others, mass genocide and murder of 250 billion animals a year on this planet. It's not sustainable. There's no good that comes of anything. You know, the words like taxes, slavery, government, slaughterhouse, meat, all of these words are dark, heavy words. None of these words serve us. None of this serves humanity in any way. So in order to really thrive as a raw vegan long term, I believe that you have to grieve the loss of these illusions, okay? You have to grieve what you thought life was when we were indoctrinated in as children. And so we can't change how we show up, who we are, and how we act in our current world as an empowered spiritual person in the process of self-mastery and self-development and self-growth when we are still running the narrative from a flawed system that serves to enslave us and others. Okay, so it's losing illusions. Losing illusions is painful. When it gets to the point of staying raw long-term, there is the mourning and the grief process. Okay. Also, even if we're not a raw vegan, even if we're just trying to cope in the world as a normal person, eating meat and omnivore diet, we're still up against the existential pain of life. What is the existential pain of life? It's the grief, the collective grief and the loss of what could have been, the loss of the successful version of my life that I could have had, the successful marriage I could have had, the life I could have built, but I didn't. And now it's too late. Think of the collective grief that we're all experiencing of people's lost hopes and dreams, let alone those who are taking on the exceptional path of self-mastery through diet and lifestyle and the highest vibrational feeding of our higher self through living foods. We are going to come up upon these existential pains much quicker. The people who are just living in the unconscious matrix, the masses who don't want to wake up, are inundated and burdened by these existential pains and fear and grief without even knowing it. The raw vegan journey, the hero's journey, is really understanding these these images, this understanding comes into focus a lot quicker for us. And that's when we hit the roadblocks, that the crossroads where we will either go back to who we were and go back into the matrix. Just like in the movie, you can go back to the matrix and get unplugged, go get plugged back in. We can go back to the matrix if we want, or we continue on the hard journey of unplugging from the matrix and becoming more in our sovereignty. And that is painful, because the hero's journey is a narrow path and it is a lonely path. We can only walk the hero's journey for ourselves. We can't walk it for others or even with others, which is also painful. I can't empower my children to live that life and to walk that life. They are going to have to do it for themselves. I can only walk my path of self-mastery and facing my grief and my fear and my pain myself. And I can only mourn myself. And the grief process is like an artistic expression. It's a fingerprint. The way I grieve is unique to me. The way I mourn that loss is unique to me. And so I am being required, the raw vegan, the hero's journey is requiring us to mourn the loss, to feel the grief, the loss of what could have been on an existential level, a societal level, the level of the collective, and then also on our personal level, the family lineage level. We're dealing with this coming down the family lineage, so we are really inundated. But this is the path to self-mastery. We aren't going to be spiritually awake until we address this, till we learn this, till we face this. It's more of like a facing. It's like facing our worst fears, facing the guillotine, facing what we don't want to face, facing the darkness of our own doing, of our own making, of our own collective society, of what we found ourselves in. We were born into this. Did we request this? Did we come here on our own to experience this pain and this mourning and the loss that could have been? Or did we find ourselves here unbeknownst to us, and now it's even more painful because we never signed up for this? Well, let's not make the mistake of just going back and plugging into the matrix. Let's get on our spiritual evolution journey and bust past all these limitations, and there's no other way to do it until we mourn the loss of what could have been in our life. So that's my message, y'all. I hope that's helpful. We're all in this together. We're all in this journey together. We need to support each other in this awakening process, in being empowered, and the grief of losing these illusions, the grief of losing what could have been, the grief of how hard society is struggling, and how we're striving, hopefully in ourselves, to want to create a better future, a better life for future generations, for our children's children's children, Now, it is my mission to help with the awakening process, to help people wake up one person at a time. I believe a raw vegan diet is an essential tool for this process. The raw foods feed our higher frequencies. They help us feel the connectedness to everything around us. And when we feel connection, we can make better, more intuitive choices. Intelligence is actually measured by our ability to make connections. And when we feed ourselves with the raw foods, we automatically increase our ability to make connections. It increases our intuition, and we can see the path unfolding before us, and we can make better choices. This is how we evolve ourselves, and it is my pleasure to be of service to this mission, okay? So I'd love to have you be part of the journey. Please subscribe to Raw Vegan Rising, for one, so you can follow along on my journey as a raw vegan. We can all do this together. If you want to know more about joining my group coaching program, Raw Vegan Heroes, please go to my website, rawveganrising.com/membership. You can check it out there. Please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment, because I would love to hear your thoughts on grief and the spiritual evolution process. Much love to all of you. I will see you in the next one.